Okay, good morning and welcome to the morning seminar of Deloitte, SAP and NextLabs. My name is Jouni Viljanen. I'm a partner at Deloitte, Finland, based in Helsinki office, and I'm one of the hosts today's seminar. Just a brief overview of the agenda of today and a couple of words about the practical arrangements. So first of all, we will be going through the NextLabs and SAP partnership presented by Rolle. Then we will be touching a little bit about the typical data protection requirements, drivers and challenges that we see around the data protection in SAP. Then the NextLabs solution is being demonstrated, how that works in practice. And then we are moving forward with a couple of success factors. What are the kind of the critical success factors you should take into account when implementing efficient and effective data protection in your SAP platform? And at the end of the presentation, we will be having the questions and answers. So you can post the questions online and we will be addressing those either during the presentation or preferably at the end of the presentation. And then we have also possibility to book a one-on-one demonstration, deep dive demonstration at the end of the presentation if you would like to sign up online after this seminar. So welcome everyone, and about the speakers and the hosts of today's presentation. So I would like Rolle, Jean-François and Nicolas to present yourself briefly.
Thank you, Jouni. So my name is Rolle Hilakkari and I work for SAP Finland. I'm a part of our finance solution advisory covering ERP finance, governance, risk and compliance solutions. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Jean-François Scardigli. I'm the Vice President for NextLabs in Europe, based in Paris. And sorry, I could not join you physically in Helsinki today. Good to be in the call.
And hello, I'm Nicolas Simon. I'm a Pre-Sales Director at NextLabs for the European region.
Thank you. And then about the NextLabs and SAP partnership, Rolle.
Thank you, Jouni. So SAP and NextLabs, we have been partnering for several years in globally and in Europe, and actually in last year, I think it was after summer holidays, a couple of our existing SAP customers called us and basically asked that what is this NextLabs all about, and then we started our journey with NextLabs here locally. So how we see, based on our discussions with our SAP customers here in Finland, how we see that what NextLabs really brings to our customers is the way to accelerate engineering collaboration while protecting IP or intellectual property rights. And secondly, what we have witnessed is that it really can secure supply chain collaboration in compliance with supplier and contractor agreements. And finally, last but not least, it really brings a kind of additional layer on top of SAP traditional standard access governance products like UI locking or access control. So whenever there's a more specific, more enhanced need, then we look into the NextLabs solutions as well. But then from the solution overview, or let's call it kind of added value, what really this solution brings is that it enables our customers, employees, and external partners to share critical information, improving collaboration and co-innovation, and by doing that, boosting the productivity. In addition, it helps to streamline data access processes and compliance with regulations for access control. And what are the business cases or use cases which we have seen in our interactions with Finnish SAP customers? It's really something that whenever customers are in the middle of joint ventures, mergers and acquisitions, or when they are entering new markets or onboarding new suppliers, this solution enables a better change management and access control for IT to respond to those changing business requirements. and also it increases operational efficiency when with enhanced capabilities to access and share critical data with business networks. And finally, what we have witnessed it's really that it can bring some IT cost savings through SAP systems consolidation with centralized access control and policy management. So this is kind of in a nutshell what we have experienced so far here in Finland in past 3 quarters, and I'm really looking forward to learn some more in the next 45 minutes. Over to you, Jouni.
Thanks, Rolle. That was a good overview. Maybe a couple of words about Deloitte. So probably many of you already know Deloitte, but very briefly. So we are one of the leading professional services in the world at the moment, having around 350,000 employees globally. Why do we see it's important to have a partner like Deloitte as a part of your data protection program? Is that we can provide the kind of the support in the let's say difficult areas that the projects are typically struggling. For example, we have the data classification and protection skills that are needed to be able to build the kind of the good and solid foundation for the data protection. We understand the SAP, we understand the data structures, we understand the authorizations, how those are kind of all connected and interlinked. And also we have the NextLabs tooling knowledge and understanding and the skills around that. And we can also support your organization in defining, designing and implementing the appropriate governance and operating models around the data protection domain. And also when thinking about the global aspect, so there is a lot of different regulations and regulatory aspects around the world in different countries. So through our Deloitte global network and presence, we provide you the understanding of individual regulatory requirements in different marketplaces. So that is definitely the strength of Deloitte, and why do we see that Deloitte is a good partner in this cooperation. So that's a little bit about Deloitte, and maybe a couple of typical drivers and kind of the challenges that we see when these kind of programs are kind of initiated and executed. Like Rolle was already explaining a little bit about the business cases, so these are pretty much aligned with that thinking process and those business cases. So what we see that the clients are currently struggling is that there is a lot of critical business data in your SAP platform. I think that's kind of needless even to say. And many of the organizations are considering that how do we protect our critical data, intellectual property, finance data, what is categorized as a confidential, how do we limit the access or the visibility to that data? If there are sales or customer data, those are many times considered as a kind of sensitive that you don't want the whole organization to have access to. Then there might be increasing internal and external threats going on. So we see partly because of the geopolitical situation at the moment, we see a large demand of making sure that the kind of your most valuable asset, the SAP, is well protected from the external threats as well. The compliance and regulatory requirements are changing, they are evolving. So there is a new regulation coming all the time that you need to kind of capture as a part of your SAP. There are the kind of the old GDPR personal identification information that you need to protect, etc. And then what Rolle was also saying about the business cases, so you might have these kind of organizational changes, you might have a M&A activities, carve-outs coming in that you need to kind of separate the access to the data. And those are the typical drivers that we see in the marketplace. And then thinking about the challenges, so these are the typical challenges that many of our clients are facing. So there might be missing ownership and the governance around this whole concept of the data protection. There might be lack of data classification, so kind of the company or the organization might lack the kind of the classification of the data, so you don't need to what to protect and how to protect. And also you might need to balance between the access rights to the system and the agility to run the business. So you cannot limit the access rights of the people too much either to make sure that the business is running as usual. And then sometimes what we see is that the access management practices are not implemented and designed on the needed level to protect the data appropriately, and the kind of the existing tools might not be in place that you can take the advantage to protect the data. And these are kind of the challenges that many of our clients are struggling at the moment when they are doing these kind of projects. And hopefully we are able to now get a very good presentation from NextLabs, how the kind of especially the tooling part will address some of these challenges. And Jean-Francois, please, can you take over and run through the NextLabs part with Nicola?
Thank you, Joni. Yes, so like Joni said, there are some limitations in SAP and in any ERP. By the way, first of all, the role-based access control, the traditional ABAC, does not protect data at the granular level and dynamically. Especially some topics like you're on vacation, your geolocation is wrong, you're not working on this particular project. That leads to role explosion, cost explosion. We have customers in Europe which have over 2 million roles because of the combinatory effect of the roles derivation in SAP. So over 2 million roles, which creates a big problem of cost and complexity to audit. Third, in order to compensate for those limitations in applications, customers tend to use custom code or used to use custom code, which is obviously not a very sustainable approach, complex for audit, complex for maintenance also. And the fourth topic is super users, and in particular debuggers, developers, are very difficult, if not impossible, to control. So that's the 4 concrete technical challenges we try to solve. So how does NextLabs work? We are following a US National Institute of Standards standard, which is called attribute-based access control. Some analysts call it dynamic controls. And what is it about? It is about giving the users the right to use their role. So they keep their role, they continue working with their roles on a day-to-day basis. But we apply a policy check on top at the runtime when you're trying to validate a payment on a vendor you created, when you're trying to change a master data during a freeze period. We check, are you allowed? Is it your ban level? Is it a freeze period? Or you're on vacation, you're trying to extract the data? Are you allowed to do those things? And in 50 or 60 milliseconds, the policy checks give the answer, and we can come back to the application, blocking or masking or filtering or making an action to prevent the risk by checking who has done what on which data, and the policy simply checks the who is compliant to the what. So who is trying to do what? So is he an internal, from which region, which ban level, which certification, nationality, is trying to do what on which data, which certified data? Is it a GDPR, finance sensitive, HR sensitive, logistics sensitive data? Or it can be also looking at the amount of the impact, the materiality of the risk. How does a policy look like? Because all of this is based on external policies. A policy is simply looking at different attributes on the users, subject, resources. Most of the time it is data resources, data attributes. And we are simply checking. So example for joint venture, recent joint venture in the US, the chemical industry between Lyondell and Sasol in 2021, where the policies were very simple, checking which party, Lyondell or Sasol, can see which data. And of course, the policy says you should forbid a user to access any confidential data from the other party in the joint venture. It's a very simple policy which prevents from building different roles, trying to manage with roles, but you don't solve with super user, you don't solve the debuggers, you still have a lot of holes if you try to solve with roles. And most interestingly, this project took place in 6 weeks instead of a few months. If you can imagine, if you needed to create rules, test rules, apply, deprovision, reprovision rules, it would have taken far more time. Other examples of policies for export control, military policies, allow users to view data only if they have the corresponding citizenship, geolocation, clearance, etc. during their vacation, not during the vacation from the wrong IP address. This is a medium complexity policy because you have some attributes here which can be more complex to find. Very important policy we've been seeing since the COVID and since the new geopolitical issues we've been seeing in the last weeks. Data leakage, ransomware. As you see, as you can know, it is easy in SAP whenever you are legitimate to extract the data and to send this data to your friends in China or wherever in the world. This is obviously a potential big breach that can reach some hackers, can lead to ransomware. The simple policies we make is control, extract on personal laptop, and or protect, encrypt data. So there are two mechanisms here. Either you can control, so block and extract, and encrypt the data. So you may be allowed to extract, but in this case, if there is very critical data, the data will be encrypted. And wherever this data will be sent in the world, it will stay encrypted. The third case is a purchase topic, purchase bank level automation. This is typically the complexity of making sure that the purchase management is approving the right band level on their own authorities, and this may be changing very quickly. And here the policy just says, prevent users from approving band levels above their band levels. And the attributes we take here is obviously the tables of authorities or the Excel spreadsheet or the tables wherever they are, which define the band levels, and we just automate the authorization according to the band levels. Another one, which is real segregation of duties policies implemented in Switzerland. This is happening in complement to GRC access control, because here we're talking about not potential risk, but real SOD risks. And the policy says, prevent users from paying vendors that they have created for risks above $100,000. So you can change any of those topics here. You can see the benefit of real SOD rather than just preventative potential SOD. And the last one, which is actually very important in most organizations, is IT super users protection policies, prevent debuggers and or IT admins like SAP all from accessing any sensitive data. Here again, this complements very well the GRC access control, where you get the logs, what people have been doing. In this case, the policy will prevent users, super users, can be business users, by the way, to accessing critical sensitive data in particular circumstances. So those are 4 examples of 5 examples of policies. Now we'll give the hand to Nicolas for a concrete demo of 2 use cases of the technology.
So let's start with the first use case for data protection to mask the personal data in HR system in SAP. So we'll have different values from the info type of the users and the principle is to mask the personal data according to the users. Is it a user from HR in a US country or in a German country, etc.? Due to that, we will mask different things in the database. Let me show you how it works in terms of direct access to the data into the DB and also using the transaction. So first of all, let me connect with these HR users. So I will run a transaction to display the personal data of any users. So if I'm just checking, for instance, John Doe, this user, I will just display his personal data. And you can see for this US HR people, this user, John Doe, is an American user. So we can see everything not masked. Now I will try to connect with another user. This one is an HR from Germany. So an HR user from Germany. He will try to do exactly the same kind of transaction. And you will see that for the same personal employee, displaying the same personal data, you will see here we have mass data, scramble, etc. So nobody can reuse it. Okay, we use partial masking for some reason to see something is okay, but it will not work. This is the principle, and it will work also for any other transaction like PA20. If I'm doing exactly the same in another transaction, I will have the same masking. Even for the technical transaction like SE16 or SE16N, if I'm just checking the table, I mean the info type directly into the system, the employee number is 1. And I'm just looking for, yes, his date of birth is masked in the same manner. And the social security number here, masked also. Okay. So this is for the employees. Let me show you how works the policies. So here we are in our control center, the brain of the solution, to show how we can easily build a policy to mask any data, let's say, into your system. We can also do some filtering for masking. Let's maybe just check how works the policy. So into the policy, you will see the different description of the policy, like date of birth, as we said, or social security number. For the table PA002, so this info type for personal data in HR, SAP HR. And for the HR users, we will define the obligation. The obligation is if I'm from HR, if my attribute for user correspond to the attribute of the connected user, I will do some obligation, could be masking or filtering. In that case, it will be masking. And here there is a customization saying that we'll have partial masking depending on the country of your users. So it's a light coding, but it's very easy to maintain, to have some condition, dynamic conditions saying why we have to mask or non-mask the different critical data you want to protect. You have different ability. You can do partial masking or full masking or random numbers, etc. In terms of obligation, we can do masking or we can do also predicate condition. We'll see in another example how it works, but you can here do the same filtering based on the nationality. So if you do that, you will mask based on the nationality. So you will be denied to display any personal data from that particular user because he's not in your country of origin. You can imagine to have this rapidly. So very easy to maintain, very easy to customize, and the business or the security team can easily create their own policies, then deploy it. You just need to save and deploy. So this use case is linked to the masking of bank details. So in different tables, we can mask different fields. So in that case, we will mask the bank number into the table for the bank of partners. So the two users will see some details or not. Let's see what happened into the system directly. So let me connect again with my US users. So I will just run, for instance, the display of a table for BUT0BK. So this is the table for the bank details for a partner. Let me just execute everything. And you will see here for this US citizen users, he will have a masking of the bank number for the country of the bank equal to or different to US. So for the German banks, you can see here, there is only the first digit and the two last digits. The rest is masked by star, star, stars. For the US bank, you can see everything is from Hungary also masked. If I'm just scroll down to the next US, you can see everything in display live. Okay. Let's see what will happen, for instance, in a transaction. Let me just maybe pick this partner. And I will try to display the partner with a corresponding transaction like BP, business partner. Okay, I'm just displaying this particular partner. And now you will see payment transaction. So in that tab, payment transaction, you have the same masking. First digit is displayed and the two last digits are displayed also. You can decide to mask on different criteria or different field for sure. Could be the IBAN, could be any field in SAP. So in transaction, you have exactly the same behavior. Let me go now directly to another users, the same for HR, DE for a German user, I mean. Now let's again go into the display of that BUT0BK table. You will see for any partner, let's run the transaction for any partner. You will see for German bank, for German partner with the bank in Germany, you will have the bank number in full display, but for the other countries like US, Hungary, etc., it's masked with the same masking pattern. I mean, first digit is displayed and the last two digits. Okay, and for sure, if I'm running exactly the same, or let me just pick and choose one for the allow of display. I'm running this, so it's very transparent. I don't need to specify the transaction anywhere, so it will be just immediate. As soon you mask the field, you will mask the field everywhere in any transaction. So in that partner, I can see the bank key, but if I'm just picking one mask, this one, for instance, for a Hungarian bank or US bank, it will be exactly the same. If I'm just displaying, oops, this new partner, for the same reason, the bank key will be masked with the same thing. It will be repetitive. You can do for any kind of partners. The one, the US one, is, if I remember well, this one should be also masked. Okay, so due to the country of the bank, this is the criteria. Let's see now how it works into the policy. So again, I'm here in the console. This is a web page accessible from any web browser like Chrome, and you will configure all the policies. And for masking bank details, for instance, you will have the same description of your policy, and after that, you will have the different masking characters. So here, the policy is quite simple. Based on these tables, for that particular field, BNKL, we'll do a partial masking showing the first digit and the last two digits. The rest will be masked by stars, stars, stars. And we have added a masking condition in a simple, let's say, language, saying bank S, this is a technical name for the country of the bank, should be different of the country code of the users, because we assign country code US to the US users and Germany to the German users. That the comparison between user attributes and resource attributes, the attributes of the data. So without any coding, without any interaction in the system, we have displayed or non-displayed the critical data. So it's very easy to do, very easy to deploy, and very easy to maintain. In addition, maybe let me just rapidly switch to another good feature. It's the reporting. By clicking on here, I can run the reports, and the reports will show all the different evaluation of the policy. So you will catch all the logs saying who do what at what time, in case you have been allowed or denied. So, oops. Administrator. So, oops, my mistake. Okay. So let me go directly into the reports. So by default, you have a lot of reports you can run easily. The last 2 years violation if you want, or we can just restrict as we wish from the 1st of January for a different policy decision, allow, deny, or both, etc. You can add a lot of criteria if you prefer. And at the end, you will just execute, run it. And here you will have all the different reports, all the logs done during the evaluation of any policies. For sure, you can download, export for your SIM tool or wherever you want, but you can also check directly what will be the decision of the policy. For instance, this one, if I'm checking here, for the non-HR users, for the personal identifying information, for masking, for the policy to mask the personal data, you will see that for this SAP system, this is my demo system, from this IP, from this table, from this IP, from this company code, from this country code, from that region, for this T code, from this, let's say, plant assign, we can imagine a lot of criteria. Everything is catched into this this policy. This is the attribute of the users, and we will compare to the attribute of the data. And in that case, the obligation, so the result of the policy has been a masking, partial masking of this table, then for type PS02 personal data for a masking of the different date of birth, etc. Okay, so you can easily check what happened in your system in case of allow or in case of deny, because you will have always the result of the policy. And the one we have run, this is a kind of demo we have done here for the HR US. You will have here the real value, the masking symbol, blah, 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 for the bank details from BUT0BK to mask bank according to the country of the bank to mask the bank L. So you have everything, but be reassured, there is no real data. We just say the result of the masking, not the exact data mask. For sure, there is no extract of your critical data in that external system to protect the data. So by this, you will have a full compliant system.
Thank you, Nicolas. Yes, so as you could see, there are different, you could see the policy validator and the policy designer, where you can define in natural language policies like masking we showed today. And like I said earlier, you can define some business export control policies, some policies around data protection encryption, so encrypting dynamically the data leaving SAP, or other business policies like purchasing band level, segregation of duties as well. So that's a platform which can be used in many circumstances for like Yoni said, for internal policies or external regulations as well. But there are some important prerequisites in order for this to work. Actually, 4. One is obviously know your requirements and data. It can look obvious, but it's not so obvious in many cases. Know your data, which data is important, needs to be protected. Where is this data? Because this solution can be applied in non-SAP applications as well, in SharePoint or SharePoint Online or other applications. So where is this data? And then, like Nicolas said, which field in which table? So there is no magic here. You need consulting services from Deloitte or internal work, obviously, to define and design those topics. Quality of attributes. Obviously, if you don't have the right data, but the users up and running and complete data, you may have some users being blocked because the policy will not recognize them. So quality of the master data of the attributes, that's a key factor of success in the projects. Quality and consistency of policies. As you can imagine, a policy is by definition preventative, so it is intrusive. It could be potentially blocking users. That's why we attach with Deloitte a lot of importance to policy testing. We have a solution within the tool which is called Policy Validator. But even though you still need some serious checking on the policies in order to check that one policy will not do the contrary to the other policy, or so this is a very critical point of quality. And also important topic, which is not starting very large projects which would take 1 year, but start small project quick wins. This is the next slide, where I show some example of customer roadmap in a pharmaceutical industry, where the first sprint is a joint venture without touching the roles and without coding. So that's an important point, without touching roles and without any custom coding anymore. Sprint 1, actually the example I gave you in the chemical industry took 6 weeks, so it can go faster than 4 months. In this case, it was a 17,000 ECC, SAP ECC users joint venture in the US. Sprint 2 can be GDPR, again, with just a few policies. So you avoid a rule explosion because the number of policies are never big. You could see the policies I showed you were very generic. So you don't need to build hundreds of policies. I think our biggest customers has 80 policies. 4 months. Then third project, which is actually very interesting, is you are going to move to S/4HANA, one single instance instead of 10 or 15 old ECC in the past. You have some serious data segregation challenges or questions from the business. And this solution is perfectly suited to manage this topic of logical data segregation. And the fourth topic, which can be band level protection for purchase managers, I gave the example of, can be less than 5 months. Here we are very conservative on the duration of the projects. So I think we are good in time. I will leave we will be sending you the materials, especially on those examples of customers in the aerospace and aeronautics space, which is one of the world leader, one pharmaceutical company, one chemical company, which have implemented in different circumstances the same solution. Having said that, I will leave now the hand for the questions you've been asking for. Before I forget, you can sign up for, like Yoni mentioned in the beginning, for personal deep dive demos and exchange. Please reach directly to Yoni or Rolle or myself, or you can also register directly to this page. But I suggest you reach to those email addresses. That's probably easier. So any questions?
Nicola, there is actually a couple of questions. I think they are, JF, I think you are best positioned to answer these. So I think the first one is that it relates to the kind of the roles of the SAP. So does the client need to change test or their roles when implementing the NextLabs tooling?
Yes, I can take. I can take this question. So the answer is no. You don't need to change or create any rules. This approach is non-intrusive. This is why the projects take just a few weeks, because there is no role impact, no custom code anymore. Why? Because the approach is very low level, database level in most cases, which does not oblige customers to touch the roles, to touch deprovision users, reprovision, test the quality on the roles, test the qualities on the roles assigned to the users, etc. They all can keep their roles, and we just add a control on top. After, it's called ABAC, attribute-based access control, on top of ABAC, role-based access control.
Right, makes sense. The second question I see here on the line is about the stakeholders. So what is your experience that who are the kind of the stakeholders in the organizations that are typically kind of involved or in the selection or in the basically in the selection of this kind of platform or tool?
Yes, so usually there are two stakeholders. The business stakeholders are either compliance people, data protection or data governance people, or purchase management people in the case of band level or segregation of duties. So the business and compliance. And of course, in order to implement, technically the selection is made on the technical side by the IT security, the SAP security people, the same team, and usually already use SAP GRC, which are very competent on those topics of authorizations of GRC, and they see the benefit of a layer on top, which will be complementing whatever mechanisms are already in place to control and to prevent risks. Yeah.
Good. Thank you, JF. Let me see if there is one maybe comment that, as far as I know, exit must be implemented for all SAP transaction and APP which grant access to PII. I think it was that question more, and then there's one more question popping up now, that can the masking be applied to Fiori UI?
Yes, to the first point of the exits, it's historically right that you needed on the application level to bring some exits. It is nowadays wrong, because we issued 1 year ago a new solution, which is at the database level, which does not need, because if it is at the database level, it doesn't require any exits on the T-code or tiles transactional apps level anymore. So that's a big revolution, because that simplifies projects because of this database level approach. And what Nicolas showed, for example, is also applying to debuggers, because we protect at the DB level. Even the debuggers, the developers will be protected.
And the question about the masking applied to Fiori UI. So
same for the same reason.
Yeah.
It would apply because it's a lower level interception.
Yeah, and the last one is that how about the success factors or other cloud-based solutions? So any comments on that?
So that's a very good question. Whenever there are some APIs available, we can cover. For example, we're working with SAP on SAP Analytics Clouds and DWC, Data Warehouse Clouds, at Bosch, Robert Bosch GmbH in Germany, which is obviously a SaaS solution. We're working on others like SuccessFactors, Ariba, which are not yet available, but we're working on that.
Okay, good. Thanks, Jean-François, Nicolas, and Rolle for good presentations. I think it was a very interesting and very concrete way of demonstrating that how you can really kind of mask and protect your data in the SAP landscape. I think it's about summarizing still, so knowing your requirements, understanding the data, understanding and designing the policies, and after that you can implement the technical solution to make it kind of happen in the real life. Thank you so much for the audience, and thank you for the questions. I saw there are also a few questions still, but we will be answering those directly because we are running out of time now. So thanks for everyone joining the seminar. Please be in touch with myself, Jean-François or Rolle, for any additional questions or comments, and we are happy to have a more detailed discussions with you if this topic is something that you are kind of planning or having any questions or want to have a discussion one-on-one about how to do this in practice. So thank you, and I wish you have a nice rest of the week. Bye-bye.